Welcome to another ACCA Technical Edge podcast. Today we're diving into the role of marketing. Whether you're hearing this on your commute, during a study break, or right before an exam, I've got you. By the end of this episode, organizations is going to make a whole lot more sense. Let's get into it.
I am so excited to jump into this one with you.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. So for today's deep dive, we are pulling directly from section B2E of the BT or FBT study guide. And the main mission for you listening today is to, well, completely unlearn the idea that marketing is just a fancy word for selling.
Oh, unlearning is definitely the right word for it. Because, if you ask most people what marketing is, they instantly picture slick salespeople or like loud television commercials.
Right, exactly. They just picture people aggressively trying to get rid of whatever product they happen to have lying around in a warehouse.
Yeah, but that is a really dangerous trap to fall into, especially in an exam setting or even in a boardroom. Selling is an internal focus. Marketing, on the other hand, is working backwards from that.
Working backwards? How so?
Well, it's making sure you actually have the product the customer wants before you ever try to sell it to them.
Okay, let me make sure I'm wrapping my head around this. So selling is me trying to convince you to buy this incredibly scratchy, ugly sweater that I already hand knit.
Yes, exactly.
But marketing is me asking if you're actually cold, figuring out your size, and noticing you actually prefer jackets all before you even pick up the knitting needles.
That is the perfect analogy, and it really lines up with the official definition. If we look at the UK's Chartered Institute of Marketing, they define it as the management process responsible for identifying, anticipating, and satisfying customer needs profitably.
Notice what isn't in that sentence. It doesn't say anything about just pushing existing inventory.
Right. And it explicitly calls it a management process. Marketing isn't just some tactical thing handled by junior staff on the ground floor.
It has to come from the top, right? Like the strategic level.
Exactly. The board of directors has to be involved in deciding what the market actually needs before any massive resources are wasted on manufacturing.
Because if it's not driven from the top, you end up making thousands of those scratchy, ugly sweaters.
You really do.
But let me play devil's advocate for a second. What happens if a company just, ignores the anticipating part of that definition? Like, what is the real damage if they just focus entirely on selling their current products as hard as they can?
I mean, the ultimate consequence is total obsolescence.
Obsolescence. Wow, so they just die out.
Completely. Because that core definition, identifying and anticipating it, implies a dynamic machine. Customer needs and the tech we use to solve them, they aren't static. They change constantly.
Yeah, they're always in motion.
Right. So marketing has to be this continuous radar system. You have to monitor those shifts to see what people will want tomorrow, not just what they bought yesterday.
And if that radar system is turned off, you end up in the graveyard of products. The study guide actually lists some brilliant examples of this. Products that fulfilled really genuine needs for decades, but eventually just became totally extinct.
Oh, there's so many good ones in there.
Right. Like audio cassettes, Super 8-sign films, the twin tub washing machine, and cash registers.
The cash registers are a really great one to look at because, it didn't fail because the mechanical parts suddenly stopped working.
Right. It still held money perfectly fine.
Exactly. It failed because the needs of the retailer shifted. A business didn't just need a secure box with a bell anymore. They suddenly needed a system that could track inventory, process credit cards, and manage customer loyalty data all at once.
Point-of-sale systems offered all of those new benefits.
Yes. So the companies that only knew how to make mechanical cash registers and just tried to sell those harder, they went bankrupt.
So even if your product is practically flawless, if the market's need evolves and you don't evolve with it, you're done.
You're completely done. So the big takeaway for you listening is this. If an organization builds a strategy solely on selling, without continuous marketing research, they're inevitably going to end up trying to sell goods the customer no longer needs.
Okay, so the danger is super obvious. You do not want to become the next twin tub washing machine.
No, definitely not.
But what is the actual mechanism a business uses to prevent that? Like, how do they practically structure this continuous process of identifying and satisfying needs?
So step one is using the traditional marketing mix. The traditional marketing mix consists of 4 core elements: product, price, promotion, and place. Together, these 4 Ps form a comprehensive model that businesses use to design and execute a strategy that perfectly targets their customers' needs.
Okay, I like how straightforward that is. Let's actually break those down. The first P is product. Now, obviously, this is the thing you are selling. But the text makes a pretty massive distinction here between the features of a product and its benefits.
Yeah, and confusing those two is such a common mistake in business.
How so?
Well, features are just the technical specs, right? The facts.
Yeah.
But the benefits are the actual utility or like the psychological satisfaction the customer gets.
Ah, okay. Like the mortgage example from the text.
Exactly. Think about it. Nobody wakes up actually wanting the feature of a massive compound interest financial debt.
Right. That feature is highly unappealing.
It really is. But there is massive demand for the benefit of owning a house. So the demand for the mortgage is entirely derived from the demand for the house. You have to market the benefit, not the feature.
It's like that old saying, nobody wants to buy a quarter-inch drill, they just want a quarter-inch hole in the wall.
Precisely. And it's also important to remember that a product's relevance isn't infinite. They have a life cycle.
Right. They go through phases: introduction, growth, maturity, and then decline.
Yeah, you see it all the time.
Okay, so let's say you've built a product that offers a genuine benefit, and it's early in its life cycle. You have something people want. Now you have to capture the value of that product, which brings us to the second P, price. And price isn't always just a number on a sticker, is it?
No, not at all. Price is basically all the costs and sacrifices a customer accepts to get the product. It could be an interest rate, a recurring fee, or, time-limited deals.
Or even a mandatory lock-in period. Like when you get a quote-unquote free mobile phone.
Oh, that's a perfect example.
Yeah, you pay nothing up front, but the price is actually that you are legally locked into a 24-month service contract. The commitment itself is the price.
Exactly. So once you have your product and your pricing structure dialed in, you have to actually communicate that to the market. This is the third P, promotion.
See, when I hear promotion, I just instantly think of, like, billboards and TV commercials.
A lot of people do, but it's actually a really broad mix of activities. The promotional mix includes advertising, sure, but also direct selling, public relations, merchandising, and sponsorship.
And when promotion is truly effective, it can literally change how we speak.
What do you mean?
Well, think about how we call a ballpoint pen a biro, even though Laszlo Biro was just the guy who invented it, or how people say they need to do the hoovering even if they own a Dyson vacuum. Hoover was just a brand that achieved ultimate recognition through promotion.
That is a great point. It shows how powerful the tool is.
Oh.
But modern promotion is rarely just yelling at everyone. They use market segmentation.
Right, dividing the market into targeted subsets, like age groups or income levels.
Exactly. You tailor the mix to the segment, like offering specialized auto insurance just for drivers with clean licenses instead of trying to sell the exact same policy to a brand new teenage driver.
Makes total sense. Which leads us to the final P of the traditional mix, place, which is all about channels to market and distribution, right?
Yes, it's the logistical architecture of moving the product from the producer to the consumer.
This is where we see massive friction when technology shifts, like the collapse of Woolworth.
Oh, that's a tragic one.
Right. Woolworth had incredible physical place, huge retail shops on every major high street, but they totally failed to compete with the direct channels of e-commerce. Their massive real estate overhead became a fatal liability compared to online competitors with centralized warehouses.
It perfectly illustrates why your place strategy has to adapt. But I want to pause here for a second.
Sure. What's up?
Well, if you are listening to this, you might be looking at these 4 PS: product, price, promotion, place, across, and thinking something is missing, especially if you're studying to be an accountant.
Oh, right. Because if I'm an accountant or a consultant, I'm not shipping a physical widget in a box. I'm literally selling my brain.
Exactly. So step 2 is the extended marketing mix. Because services are intangible and rely heavily on human interaction, the traditional 4 Ps weren't enough, leading to the creation of 3 extra elements: people, processes, and physical evidence. These ensure that service-based businesses can consistently deliver value and stand out from competitors.
I love this because it acknowledges the reality of modern business. Let's dig into the first of these extended piece people.
So when a service is completely intangible like financial advice, it is really hard for a customer to differentiate your advice from someone else's before they actually buy it.
Right, they can't test drive financial advice.
Yeah, exactly. Therefore, the people delivering the service become your main differentiator.
Which honestly sounds terrifying because people are entirely unpredictable.
They are. They're the single most unpredictable resource a company has. A machine outputs the exact same widget every single second. But an employee's mood can vary wildly from Monday morning to Friday afternoon.
And the study guide uses a fantastic phrase for this: the moment of truth.
Yes, I love that concept.
Every single interaction a client has with an employee, whether it's the receptionist answering the phone or a partner delivering a tax report, is a moment of truth. It's a chance to either delight them or drive them away forever.
Which is why training your people is literally a marketing function in a service firm. But if people are that unpredictable, wouldn't business want to remove them from the equation when possible?
Which naturally brings us to the next extended P processes.
Yes, processes are the systems through which the service is delivered. Businesses are constantly looking to re-engineer their systems to automate routine tasks, which adds a ton of value.
Like airline ticketing systems or remote mobile banking.
Right, exactly.
Like 20 years ago, checking my bank balance required standing in line to experience a moment of truth with a bank teller who might be having a terrible day. Now I just tap an app. It removes the human friction entirely.
And crucially, by automating that routine process, the bank frees up its human staff to handle the complex problems where a human touch is actually needed.
That is brilliant. Okay, that brings us to the final P in the extended mix, physical evidence. And I've always wondered about this.
What do you mean?
Well, if I'm buying a purely intangible service like an on audit, how do I know it's good before I sign the contract?
That is the exact dilemma physical evidence solves. Because the core service is invisible, you have to deliberately design physical cues that the customer can see and touch.
Oh, so that is why high-end law firms and elite accounting practices always have those beautiful, intimidating mahogany boardrooms.
Yes, it's not just the partners showing off.
It's a calculated marketing lever. The expensive decor, the crispness of the physical report, the web design, even the staff uniforms. That is all physical evidence signaling competence to the client.
Exactly. It makes the intangible feel tangible.
Okay, so we have this massive dashboard of 7 levers now, the 4 traditional Ps and the 3 extended Ps. But how does a business actually know which levers to pull?
Well, they don't just guess. Step 3 is linking marketing to the strategic plan. A marketing plan doesn't exist in a vacuum. It must be completely aligned with the organization's long-term strategic plan. Before setting marketing objectives, a business must perform a marketing audit to answer 3 critical questions. Where are we now? Where do we want to be? And how do we get there?
Right, and the time horizons on those strategic plans can vary wildly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like a fast-moving .com startup might have a strategic plan that only looks 18 months ahead because the tech is moving so fast. But a global oil extraction company is probably making plans for the year 2050.
The timelines vary, but the first step is always the audit. And to answer where are we now, you start by looking outward at the macro environment using a PEST framework.
PEST, political, economic, social, and technological factors.
Right. You are scanning the horizon for external opportunities and threats. Like, a new tax code might be a political opportunity to sell new advisory services.
But a new AI that automates basic tax prep would be a technological threat.
Exactly. And once you look outward, you also have to look inward. You do an internal audit to assess your own strengths and weaknesses.
Your internal platforms for competitive advantage versus your limitations.
Yes. And once you have all that data, you know exactly where you are, and you can deploy your 7 Ps to get to where you want to be.
This is such a robust framework. Let's actually bring all of this theory out of the textbook and apply it directly to the reality of the listener. Let's run this entire machine through the lens of professional services like accountants and lawyers.
It is the perfect arena to test these concepts because the marketing mix for professional firms has experienced a totally radical shift over the last few decades.
Oh, massively.
Take promotion, for example. Historically, in a lot of places, it was literally forbidden for accountants and lawyers to advertise.
Wait, forbidden? Seriously? Seriously. They had to rely entirely on testimonials, personal referrals, and just pure word of mouth.
Wow. But looking at the landscape today, those old attitudes are completely gone.
Oh yeah, active promotion is standard practice now.
Right. You see major accounting firms sponsoring massive sporting events or running highly targeted digital ad campaigns.
And their place, their distribution channels, shifted just as dramatically. It used to be highly dependent on face-to-face interaction. You physically went to their office.
Right, with a shoebox full of receipts.
Exactly. But now, professional firms rely heavily on virtual channels to market and deliver their services. The geographic limitations are basically gone.
And because their core product is largely intangible, mostly services and reports, the extended mix becomes their absolute most powerful tool.
It really does.
Like the people, the accountant's attitude during that moment of truth And the physical evidence, the polish of their web design, that is what actually sells the service today. It proves that marketing isn't just selling, it's the architecture of the business. It really connects the theory right to the practice.
It really does. So before we wrap up today, I want to leave you with a final thought experiment to chew on. Think about those moments of truth handled by people in professional services. As we move into an era where so much analysis is automated by software, what happens when that moment of truth shifts from a human accountant to an automated dashboard? How will your future firm use physical evidence and processes to prove its value when the human element shrinks? Something to think about.
That is a fascinating question to leave them with.
And that's a wrap on today's episode. I hope the role of marketing feels clearer now than it did 20 minutes ago. That's always the goal. If this helped you, please follow the show and leave a review on Spotify. It genuinely helps more ACCA students find us. Keep pushing. You're closer to that pass than you think. Until next Wednesday, thank you for listening.